Hi, philosophers. Welcome back to your purpose unit. Today we're going to be reviewing Buddhism, some of the broad strokes of Buddhism that best pertain to our purpose unit. We're going to start off with a few key concepts from Buddhism, including, there we go, some attitudes and opinions of Buddhism. These are a few broad strokes to understand the core of Buddhism. So, one thing Buddhists believe is they believe at the core of everyone is something trustworthy, wise, and good. Now, depending on your day, you may or may not be in touch with that. And they say that is because of ignorance, that not everybody acts trustworthy and wise and good because we are separated from our better selves by this ignorance and confusion. However, it's not a hopeless state. There is something we can do about our confusion and our ignorance. And what can we do about it? Well, it's a matter of cultivation. In order to do something about your unfortunate state, you have to pay attention. You have to be mindful to work your way out of the confusion. However, it's not that easy. You can't just be like, boom, I'm going to be mindful. It's a matter of cultivation. It's something that you do have to practice. And once you start practicing it, some really amazing things start to happen. You start to become more aware of the world around you. You feel very connected with reality, and including this moment, and you feel connected with all living things around you. You are very in the moment. And you become more compassionate to other sentient beings. Now, what I'd like you to do is take just a moment, maybe pause the video, and think about, this is a pretty optimistic view of humanity. Does this ring true to what you've experienced in your life? How so? If you want to call up a friend or text them this, that'd be great. Or you can just think to yourself. So once you've done that thinking, hopefully you paused. Buddhism doesn't have an easy answer if you don't agree with what it says. You have to dive in. You have to have some disquiet in your life. Be looking for some sort of answer, and Buddhism presents a possible answer. How we're going to start is with the story of the Buddha. Here we go. There is the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. There are many Buddhas because Buddha actually is a title. It means enlightened one. But there was one who began Buddhism, and he started his life in India as a Hindu prince, and he lived in the lap of luxury. His mom and dad wanted to protect him, as most parents and guardians do, and because they had the means, they were able to on a really grand scale, and he lived in luxury and seclusion for most of his life. In fact, well into adulthood, he got married, he grew up, had a child, and he lived in this bubble for a very long time. But he grew restless within his bubble, and he wanted to see more of what the world was about. Now, his parents knew that there was more in the world than just the loveliness they'd presented him with, so they were a little nervous about this. And what they decided to do is allow Siddhartha to tour their city, but only on a specific parade route. And on that parade route, they would line it with young, beautiful, healthy people, so he would continue to think that the world was still all sunshine and puppy dogs. As he leaves and goes on this parade route, there's something that the parents can't control. Siddhartha sees something that he hasn't seen before, and it draws him off the route. And for the first time in his life, he sees the effects of old age, the effects of famine, disease, and he even sees death. He sees a dead body. And this freaks him out, seeing these negative things for the very first time in his life. And all of a sudden, it made his good life seem really hollow. He couldn't understand what was the purpose of what he was doing. So he decides that he needs to go out and find in the world, how can he know the world, know the truth of the world, but also deal with it. One final thing he saw is he saw a monk, and this monk was able to know the truth of the world, all the scary stuff, and still be at peace with it. And that's what Siddhartha wanted. So what he does is he packs up. He's age 29 at this point, so his parents kept this going for a very long time. He packs up, leaves his wife and his son, and goes in search of the truth. Now, this is a piece of art that shows him leaving. And then he enters the aesthetic period of his life. And this is all about deprivation. He goes from one end of the pendulum to the other. So luxury and everything good in the world to abstaining from everything, abstaining from eating, from drinking, from sleeping. And he's really, really good at it. You can see in this picture He has become skin and bones. He's still able to survive, but he doesn't find those answers that he wants. There's still something disquiet in his mind. One day, as he's meditating, he hears a sitar player passing on the river. And the sound of the sitar strings brings up an idea for him for the very first time. And he thinks, my life is kind of like that sitar string. In the beginning of my life, it was too loose. And if a sitar string is strung too loosely, it won't play. And now my life is too tight. If you try to play a sitar string that is too tight, it will snap. It won't play the required music. So he develops the idea of the middle way, that your life should not have no challenge, but it should not have too much challenge. You should have a middle way and this path of moderation. Once he discovers this path of moderation, he begins to live it out, and he meditates, actually for a week of weeks, 49 days, beneath a Bodhi tree before reaching enlightenment. After he reaches enlightenment, he is known as the Buddha, which means enlightened one. And he spends the rest of his time, this is him trying to reach enlightenment, with demigods trying to tempt him or attack him, but nothing could shake him during his meditation. He spends the rest of his life traveling throughout India and spreading his ideas, which is essentially Buddhism, including the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. This is a pause, a break, because this video may be too long. I will edit this piece out in just 1 second. So here coming up, Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. Here are the Four Noble Truths. First of which is, suffering is a part of life. I know, really exciting. Oh, and my kid's awake, so we're going to stop right here.